Hey guys, we are back with another week of It's Not Complicated. It's a podcast from Central United Methodist Church where I am the senior pastor, and I'm here with one of my favorite co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Chase. I'm the executive pastor at Central.
Virginia can't be with us today, but she is with us in spirit.
That's right. And texting, because I got a couple messages.
Oh, good. Well, remember, we're reading the Bible, and with the Bible, there are all sorts of wonderful and sometimes harrowing stories. So just be very mindful as you listen and who is listening with you. And we're going to jump in. Let's go. Chase,
Yes.
are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Let's go.
We are digging into 1 Samuel. This is day 64 of our reading.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
This was, and so just kind of being real and transparent, this was a week. So like I had to like really make myself read like quickly today because I missed a few days.
Sure.
And so if you're out there and you're like, hey, I'm not getting to read every day, it's okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, same. And you can always catch up. Or if you're really adventurous, you can use these podcasts to catch up.
Yeah. And Virginia did something the other day. We were talking, and it's like she has a Bible that reads to her, and you can change the speed. So she was like speed listening instead of speed reading. I was like, that's kind of brilliant.
That's a good idea. I probably need to do that. Because last time I listened to the Bible, it took 15 minutes to read one chapter. And I was like, this is not a good use of time.
Now, this man used to go up year by year from his town instead of, now this man used to go up year by year from his town to work sacrifice the Lord.
Love it. Chapter 1 of 1 Samuel opens up. I would like to read chapter 1, verse 1 to you. Now there was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zophite from the highlands of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah. Now, when the chapter or when any narrative in the Bible opens up, there was a certain man. This is a key to us to, hey, something's going to happen. Pay attention.
It's about to go down.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, Elkanah is not the point here. He's just the vehicle, if you will, to the point. But Elkanah has two wives, Hannah and Peninnah, we'll say.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's how I would pronounce it.
Yeah, exactly. And we always go with Chase's pronunciations.
That's right.
Peninnah had lots of children, but Hannah, who, just spoiler, Elkanah loved her more, as per the usual, could not have any. Of course,
no kids.
We know this story echoes through the stories we've already read. We've got a man with two wives. One has lots, the other one has none. Also, he loves the other one with none more. This is very Jacob and Leah and Rachel. So go ahead.
No, like the important thing, I guess, he did worship the Lord.
He did.
And which included, going up and making sacrifices. And of course, they had the leftovers, sacrificial leftovers, get to go home. And the wife that had kids got a portion, but Hannah got more.
Double portion. That's how much he loved her. He's like, an extra.
Here's an extra rib.
Rack of lamb. And so
nothing says I love you like barbecue.
Absolutely. Especially that's Chase's love language. I think.
It really is.
So, of course, again, we hear these echoes of these traditions in the story of Israel. Peninnah and Hannah have tension. We don't know why. It says that Peninnah provoked Hannah. Was that on purpose? Was she, needling her? Or was it just, it's hard, I would imagine, being the second wife who wants a child so badly and can't have children. I've been the first wife, the only wife, I should say, and struggled with that. And it created tension in my own life. So I don't know, but they have tension, and so much so that Hannah stops eating, and Elkanah's like, I have so much lamb left over. You have to eat something. And then he says this to her. He says, don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Okay, Elkanah, do not make this about yourself. Yeah, no. I'm like, dude, read the room. So Hannah goes, and goes to the, is it the temple where Eli is?
There's not a temple yet because
no, that's right.
the
You're
Ark
right.
of the
I'm sorry.
Covenant's traveling. So it would have been
She goes up to the Shiloh.
where they would have been doing sacrifices. So each town has a priest for sacrifice. So they would have gone to Eli the priest to the temple of the Lord.
No, it says this is interesting. Okay, this is also where like we know that this was edited later and put together because this says, now Eli the priest was sitting in the chair by the doorpost of the Lord's temple.
Yeah, but we also know that the ark is traveling. We'll read a little bit in a minute about that. And so there hasn't been
There's not a formal
there's
temple.
not a
That's
formal
what
temple yet.
Solomon builds.
Yeah.
Interesting. But she goes up to wherever they've been worshiping and sacrificing, and she is praying and weeping bitterly. And she's promising God in all of her prayers that if she could just have a son, she would dedicate that son to God as a Nazarite. Remember, Nazarites are like Samson. They don't cut their hair. They don't drink alcohol. There's several different vows that they make. Eli watches this woman praying and like weeping. And of course, he thinks she's drunk.
How long will you make a drunken spectacle of yourself? Put away your wine.
Is that what he
That's
said?
what he says.
That's so silly. Anyway, she's like, dude, I'm not drunk. I'm just in despair.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay. Well, then in that case, may your prayer be answered.
Is that all it takes?
Exactly. So Hannah goes home, as Samuel says, or rather, as Eli says, her prayer is answered. She conceives. She names her son Samuel, which is the same root as it means heard by God. It's from the same root as the Shema, the Hero Israel.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really neat connection. Yeah. And then as soon as he's weaned, which was probably a couple of years in that culture, she does take him up and dedicates him to the temple.
Yeah. Like, here you go. Your turn. And
I thought this was neat. I'm skipping ahead a bit, but in chapter 2, we find out that God does continue to bless Hannah with more children. So to quote unquote, replace the one that she's given back to God, which obviously not a replacement, but she gets to continue to fulfill her dream to be a mother, which is nice. So in chapter 2, we start with Hannah's prayer, which is this beautiful poetic song. And we know that Luke reuses this in the Magnificat.
Yep.
So it talks about, powerful people being taken down and people being set free. And this is the work of the Lord. Both of these in response to a miracle child. But then meanwhile, of course, there's always Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas.
Yeah.
They're not doing what's right.
Scoundrels.
Yeah, they're scoundrels. Like real bad dudes. They were misappropriating sacrificial meat. They and relatable, they didn't like it to be burned all the way through. It just took all the flavor out of it.
Right.
So they're like, could you just leave it a little bloody? Just give us
like medium.
Yes,
would
please.
Be great.
Medium rare, maybe. I don't want to get too, And so also they are they're sleeping with women at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Big mistake.
Yeah.
But when Eli hears about all these shenanigans and how they're like misusing their power, he does go and he gives them kind of a soft warning. Probably he could have been firmer with them, but he does at least try to warn them.
So you should stop.
And they don't listen.
Then what happens?
Well, this man of God comes into town, and he's like, I have a prophecy for you. And Eli's like, oh, what is it?
We love those.
And he's like, yeah, your sons are going to die.
They're dead.
On the same day.
Yep.
Rough. Meanwhile, again, little Samuel is just like doing so well in the temple or in this tent of meeting. He's just training. He's doing all the things he's supposed to be doing. And there's this clear juxtaposition between this child who is being raised by Eli.
Right.
Doing the right thing, and his own sons, whom we also assume he has raised or not. So, Chapter 3.
Here we go.
Chapter 3 is the most famous chapter. Well, maybe second most famous chapter in all the book of 1 Samuel, because it does have David and Goliath in here. We'll get to that. But this is where Samuel is sleeping, and a voice calls out to him, Samuel, Samuel.
First of all, this is scary. Even as a kid, I thought, no, this isn't going to go down. And even I sleep with white noise on, like rain or fog or whatever it is, and it's fireplaces. And then sometimes you get the live ones that don't have any kind of interruptions. They're great, but once in a while you get the ones that have a commercial about 30 minutes in. So if you're asleep, it's like, shh, hey, and you're like, what's going on? This is how I see that. And I remember as a kid waiting to hearing the story at church and waiting till my brother goes to sleep and being like, Chad.
Did you do that?
Yeah. Of course he screamed, it's just,
and then your parents came in and said, go get a switch.
like, what's going on? What is going on? I heard my name and I was like, maybe you should call the Lord and say, here I am.
Chase.
Mom thought it was funny. Dad, not so much.
My favorite pranks are Bible inspired pranks.
What do you do?
And what are you going to do? Like when you're raised with, these are the stories that we have.
This is our inspiration.
Yeah. So it says that Samuel did not yet know the Lord. Mm-hmm. And this is important because this is not Samuel's fault. In verse 1 of this chapter, it tells us that the word of the Lord was rare in those days. After all of the years and generations of the judges and all the calamity that had just taken over in all the tribes, God's word, the Spirit of God is not talking a lot. And probably because they're not listening.
Yeah.
But the point is, when this voice cries out to him, he's like, I don't have any idea what's happening to me. This is all new territory. So he goes to Eli and he's like, did you call? And Eli was like, I'm asleep. So no.
Go back to bed.
So he says, go back to bed. 2 more times this happens. And then the 3rd time, Eli's like, okay, I know what's happening now. He says, go back to bed. And when you hear the voice, say Samuel, answer, here I am, which in Hebrew is Hineni, which I always thought that was funny. And that's just probably me. Hineni. It means, it literally means it's me or something like that.
It's me.
But it's translated, here I am.
Okay, cool.
Like whenever Abraham's got his sword raised to kill Isaac on the altar.
Yeah.
And the angel's like, Abraham. And he's like, Hineni.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, that's fun. I know you all enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I try to listen to your stories, Chase.
Huh?
So he goes back. The Lord gives him a message. It's not great. It makes Samuel. And so he just sleeps till morning. I love this. He's like, God talked to me and I'm not going back to Eli because God gives Samuel another prophecy about Eli's sons. It's not going to end well.
It's not going good.
Yeah. So in the morning, Eli's like, well, what did God say? And I'm like, he must know.
Yeah.
He has to know, right?
Yeah. I wonder if Eli was listening.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
He's got a cup to the door of the tent. And so, Eli's like, listen, buddy, you can't worry about this. This is God. This is not your fault. And let's let the Lord do what is good in God's eyes. And then during this time, people start realizing that Samuel is a prophet. Like, this kid is going to be a big deal.
I mean, just discerned it, or?
I'm sure word got around about this. I think he was also just active in the temple. And so, yeah. It just says, so Samuel grew up and the Lord was with him, not allowing any of his words to fail. All Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was trustworthy as the Lord's prophet.
So he's already kind of we just don't know what they are.
Yeah, we don't know all the things. Yeah, yet.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So moving on to chapter 4, Israel and the Philistines, they go for a fight. This is really just it feels almost like they're in a league. Mm-hmm. Like a war league. Mm-hmm. And they're like, all right, games tonight at 7, whatever. No, are you not in
games tonight at 7?
The league, the war games?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm talking about a league. Do you understand what a league is?
Yeah, I know what a league is.
Okay, well, never mind. Okay.
What's a war game?
I don't know. It's war.
Oh. I thought this was something people do at 7 o'clock. Like the draft or something when they play games on the football?
That was the schedule. They got their schedule. First war.
This is my first cup of coffee this morning. I'm here.
I realize these jokes aren't great, but you're not even pretending.
I'm like, is it real?
Where's Virginia? Virginia, we missed you today. Okay, so moving on. The Philistines win the first round. And Israel's like, we got to bring in the big guns. And so they grab the ark. of the covenant.
By guns, we mean God.
Yeah,
exactly. We need God's help. Let's go.
And so they bring in their most sacred objects.
Yeah.
And this does freak out the Philistines, because when the Israelite army sees the ark, they start cheering so loud that they're like, the Philistines.
Caused like the ground to rumble or something like that. It was like a rumbling in the
It was a
crowd
whole
or
day.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody gets up and gives a great pregame speech. And so the Philistines are like, oh, well, we do feel better. Like somebody said, clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. And so they marched out into battle and they won anyway.
What a speech.
And then Friday Night Lights.
Do what?
Oh my gosh. I can't. Where is Virginia?
You got it right. Freedom. Yeah.
No, I got freedom. I'm just saying clear eyes, cool hearts, can't lose. Friday Night Lights.
I thought that's what they said. I wasn't reading. I'm sorry. Oh, like, that's a great speech. That's wonderful. Where'd you see that? What verse was that? 7.
Okay. So the Philistines capture the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
Whoops. Big deal. Also, Eli's sons die on the same day in this battle.
This part's messed up.
Yeah. Well, go
So
ahead.
like Eli, like somebody comes up and they're like, oh, Eli, guess what happened? Oh, we lost. And your sons die. And he's like, oh no.
Dang.
And then he's
sucks.
old. He's sitting in a chair, right? And then they're like, oh, and the Ark of the Covenant was taken. And then after he found out that the Ark of the Covenant was taken, he falls out of his chair,
Yeah.
broke his neck, died.
Dead. R.I.P. Eli.
And then his pregnant daughter
Yeah, this is terrible.
is like sitting
Daughter-in-law.
there, daughter-in-law, she's pregnant, and she's hearing the message too. It's like, oh, we lost. Oh, people died. Oh, they took the ark. And then she's like, well, here we go. I'm giving birth.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And then she dies giving birth. This is sad. And so the midwife names her son Ichabod, which means no glory. Sad.
Is that where Crane got his name?
Maybe
Like
perhaps.
just kind of just no glory.
No glory.
That's not a fun story either.
I mean, it's not great. No.
No.
So anyway, the news of the ark is like not good for Israel. They are very, very worried about what they're going to do because, I mean, this is like it's God. God is gone.
Yes.
Right. So then we have the ark. We get a little like side story about the Ark of the Covenant in Philistine territory, and it is wreaking havoc.
This is so cool.
This is great. This is sort of a replay of the plague situation back in Egypt. There's a lot of Egypt references actually in the story of Samuel and Saul and David, but that's an aside. But so the ark is in Philistine territory. The first night, or at some point while the ark is there, they go to Dagon's temple the next day, and the Dagon idol has fallen down.
And so they put the ark next to this other idol, and the idol is a dragon. And I just go to Mulan, and it just be like, I'm a dragon. I don't do that lizard thing.
Oh my gosh.
So just, is it Ishu?
I don't know. I don't remember the names of the Mulan characters.
Habishu? You remember that? Okay, anyway.
I mean, I know what you're talking about. So
Just picture him like in a stone form.
yeah, and it's fallen over, and they're like whoopsie daisies, but they're
Put
like,
it back up.
no harm, no foul. So they, get Dagon back up there,
Ishu.
and the next day they come in, and the God was like, I'm sorry, did I stutter? And the dragon or the idol is on the ground, head and hands cut off. Like, let me be clear about what's happening. And so they're like panicking. They're like, we do not like this vibe at all. This is not good. And then there are plagues after this. There's plagues of tumors. And they're like, this is the ark's fault. And they're, I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
So they're like, send it to Gath. Like Gath deal with it. And so it gets to Gath and they get hit with tumors as well. And on to Ekron, same deal. And they're like, okay, chapter 6, we have got to get this out of here.
Yeah, they're like, they literally pick up the phone and, well, I don't know. They do smoke signals to the priest.
Yeah.
They're like, what's going on with this? What's up with this? Y'all want this box back?
Yeah. Look, we've made a mistake. So they tie up 2 unyoked calves
Yeah.
is what I mean. They tie them up to the ark, put it on a nice solid cart, and they send it on back into Israel territory. And they send along with it a guilt offering, which was just like some golden tumors. That was interesting. I don't know what that means, but like, thank you, but no thank you. So the ark ends up, the calves take it to Beth Shemesh, which was good. That's back in Israel territory. But bad news is that there were some people from Beth Shemesh who were like peeking in the ark. No, we don't do that. And so God struck them down as well. So just like, please deal gently with the ark, you know? Like, I don't know how else to say this. God, that's God. I don't know how else to say this.
Yeah.
So the ark is eventually moved to Kiriath Jearim. That's where it stays for 20 years.
Yeah, and this is like a full season of lament for Israel. It's just quiet, but also they're in a lament. Like, we are so sorry. We're so glad we got this back.
Yeah, because it's their fault that they let it go.
Yeah.
I guess. And so the people are finally getting back on God's side. That's sort of where Samuel's trying to have been leading them.
Yeah.
And now he is in charge. He's kind of fulfilling this judge role, like from back in the book of Judges, a leader, but he also is a prophet, which is common for judges to be kind of both and. And so he's telling them, like, we have said this for generations now, but you have got to get rid of all your foreign gods. Yeah. And so they actually obey this time. They get rid of their Baals, they get rid of their Ashtoreths. And so this time when the Philistines come back to fight again, this is game number 2 in the War League, Chase.
Okay, yeah, all right.
It's an early game. It starts at 5:45.
Okay.
Anyway, Philistines, they come back, but God brings some thunder and it scares them. And so they run away, and Israel routs them. They take care of it. So in response to this, Samuel sets up an altar at that site, and he names it Ebenezer, which means stone of help.
Nice.
And so I am wondering if that's what the song is about. Come thou fount. Here I raise my Ebenezer, whither from thy help I'm come. Something from my help thy help me.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Okay.
I always pictured Scrooge.
Thank you. Okay, I was going to go back to the Muppets. I was going to go back. I wasn't going to say nothing.
Muppets Christmas
I wasn't going to say nothing. I didn't say it, but you said Scrooge first. I was just like, yeah, Scrooge was like a stone, but then helped. So I don't know. That's probably not where Charles Dickens got
Whither from thy help my. Well, how does it go?
I don't know.
No, look it up. Just never mind. So that was neat, like just epiphany for me. The whole time that Samuel was with Israel, from there on, the Philistines left them alone.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Chapter 8.
Doesn't last forever.
No, it doesn't. Because why?
Samuel got old.
He's old. And his sons were appointed as leaders.
Bless you.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Or gesundheit. Do you know that people say bless you because your heart stops when you sneeze?
That's not true.
And you've been blessed because
that's an urban myth.
Oh, well, it sounded good to me.
I actually preached on this one time, and that's one of the myths. The other myth was that they thought that your spirit would vacate your body momentarily and allow demons to come in.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Well, do you know that you cannot sneeze with your eyes open because your eyeballs will pop out because of the pressure?
Okay.
Don't try it. Don't try it at home.
Yeah, do not try this at home. So anyway, Samuel's old. His sons Joel and Abijah are appointed as leaders, but this is a repeating of the Eli story. They are scoundrels. Mm-hmm. They are full of, their leadership is full of bribes and corruptions. Chase wants to make some PK jokes here.
No. I was like, that was like a question mark. It's like, well, here's the thing. It's not like a joke, but I'm not a PK kid. I was a deacon kid, but same. But like you hear PK kids talk all the time, like, oh, we were bad because we were always in church, and parents were busy or whatnot. And but the thing is, you're not that bad.
No, that's true. I mean, some of them are. Some of the PKs are, but
the
most
PK
of them are
prophet
not.
kids, I mean, they're not doing too good.
No, they're not. Ooh. Yeah, hard times for. Oh, PK prophet kid. Got it.
Yeah. Well, both and.
So because his sons are so bad, the elders are like, we need to get a king in here. Let's go. And this upsets Samuel.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. And he's like, God, they keep asking for a king. They want to be like the other nations. And you said not to do that. And God says, listen, don't take it personally. It's not you. It's me. He says, they're rejecting me. Just give them a king, but warn them what it's going to be like. So Samuel gives them the warning. And this is kind of back from the law when they talked about what kings were like.
Yeah.
He says, kings aren't great. When they're in charge, they're going to make you serve them.
Yeah.
They will lord everything over you. And he basically says you'll end up being slaves again, which is a callback to Egypt. And he says kings own everything, and it's going to make you mad, and you'll want God to save you, and you'll cry out to God, but God will not hear you in that day. And it's that same word that's used back in Exodus when it says that God heard the cry of the people enslaved in Egypt and came to their rescue.
Yeah.
God's like, I'm not doing this again. I pulled you out of Egypt so that you wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
So, of course,
But
the
it's
people.
one of those things, like, you're going to get what you ask for. Let's see if you want what you get.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, it doesn't come to fruition until God actually comes and is king. It's like they still have that, even under Roman oppression. They have a king that's really appointed by the Roman Empire.
Right.
And it's like, okay, until Jesus comes and says, I'm the King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Yeah.
So, wow, here's your kings.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Good luck.
Yeah.
The people don't care. They want a king. And so God's like, well, we'll go get him a king.
Yeah.
Chapter 9, there is a Benjamite named Kish who had a son named Saul.
Oh.
Yeah, and Saul was handsome.
Okay.
He was tall.
Okay.
When Saul walked around, you paid attention.
Okay.
But then there's this hilarious story that's like Saul and some of his, like, I guess, workers that from his father's workers, the donkeys get loose.
Oh,
And so they got to go on a donkey hunt.
Yeah.
And so they go on this hunt, and then they finally run into Samuel because someone says, let's go find that guy because everything that he says comes true. So they find him. Meanwhile, Samuel is having a vision that a man from Benjamin was coming and that he is going to be the king. So when they finally meet Samuel, when Saul walks up, God's like, yeah, that's the guy. So they meet each other. They have meals together. They talk for a while. And Samuel kind of tells Saul like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So in chapter 10, Samuel finally anoints Saul and prepares him to take over.
What about the donkeys?
Don't worry. Don't
Okay.
worry for all of you who were worried about those lost donkeys. They are found. So that is very good. That is an important part to add to this story. Then after this, though, Samuel's like, Saul, I think you're the guy, but I am going to send you on this like cute little royal scavenger hunt. He's like, go here, go there. You're going to like find 3 men. And they're going to have 3 goats, very like go see a man about a horse situation. Then that's at Bethel. That's the house that also called the house of God. But then he's like, then you're going to go to Gibeah. And that's where God's Spirit's going to find Saul and kind of fill him. But wait, go on to Gilgal. And once you get to Gilgal, you're going to hold for 7 days and then I'll meet you there.
What is going on?
I don't know.
And this is the first time. So it's like, we're just going to figure this out.
Sure.
Here we go.
One thing that's unique about Saul's kingship here and into his reign is that there is sort of a prophetic voice that he has. I mean, this idea that the Spirit of God is filling him.
Yeah.
That's also language for prophetic nature. Which is a lot more like the judges than like the future kings. So he kind of becomes this bridge between the judges and the monarchy. But when it's finally time for Saul to be announced as king, Samuel's like, and here he is. Where is he?
Yeah.
He's hiding.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on?
What?
But it doesn't matter because the people are getting real pumped about this whole king thing.
Which kind of shows maybe a foretelling of kind of Saul's actions throughout the rest of the stories. It's like he's in kind of one state of mind and then another. It's like, I'm so excited. We're going to find this guy. Everything's true. Oh, I'm going to do this quest to be king. And then all of a sudden I disappear.
Yep.
So we'll kind of see that later.
And it also lays the groundwork for the idea that you can't look on the outside to see people's character because Saul looked like a king. He walked like a king. He
Fair.
acted like a king. He was very tall. He could not hide in crowds. And yet the first time, Samuel's going to introduce him to a crowd, he turns around and hides.
Yeah.
So don't judge a book by its cover. Chapter 11. The Ammonites on the scene. Why? I don't know. But they offer Jabesh Gilead this terrible treaty.
Yeah.
Jabesh Gilead's like, please just like, let's have a treaty. Let's talk it out. And the Ammonites are like, sure, if you'll let us gouge out one eye from every person.
That's a great deal.
And they're like,
What?
give us like a day to think on
Let's
it.
sleep on that one.
Yeah. So they get a hold of Saul and he steps in and he's like, look, I've got a plan. And so the men of Jabesh Gilead go and tell the Ammonites, like, just give us one more day and we'll surrender. And the next day Saul sets them up and he surprises the Ammonites. They go in, they kill them all. And this sets up Saul to finally be confirmed king.
Okay.
He's smart. He's got some talent on the court or the battlefield, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep this league thing going.
Yes,
I'm going to hang on
here
to
for it.
with dear life. For dear life.
Saul, he's our king. If he can't beat
Do it,
them,
then-
nobody can.
Yeah. Or maybe let's get David. Anyway, so chapter 12, Samuel, we said he was old, but
Yeah.
now it's for real this time. I feel this
What?
because aren't those seasons, like I'm 40, I feel old compared to when I was 20. And so I could see myself being like, I'm getting really old, guys. Like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Well, I hope another 40 to 50 years.
Right. Although I might take something from these farewell addresses, I might write a farewell address.
Oh, I think we absolutely need to write a farewell address.
I mean, Moses did it. Samuel's doing
all the
it
greats.
here.
Yeah. So he's like, now you have your king and I'm real old. Tell me what I've done wrong. And the people are like, nothing. You've done nothing wrong. Thank you for everything. Which is also how I'm going to write my farewell address. I'm going to write responses.
Everybody said I did nothing wrong. Yeah. Thank you for everything. Oh, thank you.
So sweet. Yeah.
Humble.
Yes, exactly. Just like Moses. He recaps the history of Israel because, it's been a minute. Thank you so much. And then he calls on God for thunder and rain. He's like, and don't forget what I can do. I mean, via God. And God, is like thunder and rain.
What?
And the people are very impressed by this. They were like, Samuel's still got it. You know what I'm saying? So, and then he closes with, fear the Lord, serve him faithfully, do evil, and all of you, including your king, will die.
Just don't
Which
forget.
will probably be my benediction from my farewell address.
Oh, gosh.
In chapter 13, we move on to the story of Saul. Samuel's kind of exited the story, and now Saul comes into play. He's 30 when he becomes king.
Yeah.
Which just feels a little young. I mean, president of the United States has to be 35. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think that was, maybe we took some notes.
Well, and then the Hebrew, it says that the number is actually lacking in Hebrew. So it's like Saul was years old.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I
he
think
was just
some of
like,
this is
he
kind
was
of
an
a guess.
adult. He was in his Jesus year, or the first Jesus year.
And 2 years over Israel was 30 and something. So there's like another number that's missing here in the Hebrew.
Gotcha.
So
And so he also has a son named Jonathan. And Jonathan goes out and attacks. Remember, while Samuel was alive, the Philistines left the Israelites alone.
yeah.
But now Saul's like, it's time to get into some Philistine territory.
Yeah.
So Jonathan goes out and attacks the Philistines. And he stepped in a hornet's nest, so to speak. So Israel has to hide. All of them have to start finding places to hide because the Philistines are on the attack. They hide in caves. Some of them cross the Jordan back to the other territories.
Yeah.
And so Samuel's still around, but he's old. And so Saul is waiting on Samuel to come and offer a sacrifice. But remember, he's old. It takes him a while to get around.
It's like,
So Saul's like, I can't wait any longer. We've got to get this offering done. So he goes ahead and gives the sacrifice, the burnt offering. When Samuel shows up, it's like right when the barbecue is
oh
finished.
no.
And he's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
What have you done? And this act dooms Saul's reign.
Yeah. He didn't follow the law.
Didn't follow the Lord.
What did he just say? Fear the Lord and serve the Lord faithfully. Do evil, and all of you, including your king, will die.
Yeah. So also, this was like a little interlude to let us know that Israel's army had no spears because there was a shortage of the iron,
Yeah.
and only Saul and Jonathan had a spear.
Yeah.
All the Philistines had all the spear material.
Yeah. So they use what? Their plowshare and mattocks and axes and sickles. Yeah.
What was the ox goad? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in chapter 14, there's this interesting story about Jonathan and his armor bearer. And the armor bearer was like the side kick to whoever was leading in the military battle. They would literally carry their armor. They also kind of, it's like a little bit more dangerous version of a golf caddy is what I envision.
Oh, nice.
So the armor bearer, Jonathan's like, look, we're going to go attack this outpost, but it's up high. So we got to kind of see what happens. If we wave at them and they're like, we're going to come down there, then we got to run. But if we wave at them and they're like, come on up, then we know that God is going to give them into our hands. So they're like, come on up. And the armor bearer's like, look, go. I am with you, heart and soul.
Yeah.
Powerful. So they climb up this mountain, they kill 20 men. And when this happens, it freaks out the rest of the camp of the Philistines and they start panicking. So Saul and the army see them kind of panicking and they hear all the noise. And so they rush in to go ahead and take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But when they get there, the Philistines are already killing each other.
They're like,
What?
Oh gosh. Oh no. Who's my friend and who's my foe?
Also, like, this is when jerseys might be helpful
Right.
in the war games.
In the war games.
And so they're just killing each other. And so they win the battle. But then there's this whole thing.
Or do they lose the battle?
I don't know.
Who won the battle? The Philistines won the battle for the Israelites.
That's true. That's true. I mean, the Philistines won and lost in that day.
Yeah.
Both and. Jonathan is hungry. And he
Like
sees,
you are.
Huh?
After a game.
After a game, you got to, like, refuel. And so he grabs some honey and eats it. But
What?
Chase.
What?
Saul had asked the people to swear an oath to fast.
Oh, well, who'd he swear it to?
The God.
Oh.
And so now Jonathan has to die.
Oh.
So Saul figures out by process of elimination that Jonathan did something bad. And Jonathan's like, no, I didn't know. And now I have to die.
Didn't know we were doing keto today.
Yeah.
What's going on?
My gosh. Anyway, and so the men are like, look, Jonathan actually really helped us. Let's not kill him today. Like, why don't you eat some honey, Saul, and calm down?
You're hangry.
So
you've been fasting for 6 hours.
Right.
Get some lunch.
Get a Snickers bar. That holds Saul off. Jonathan doesn't die that day. But we know now that during Saul's reign, there is a lot of war happening between Philistines and Israelites. Chapter 15. Saul attacks the Amalekites. This is on Samuel's advice.
Yeah.
Again, this is 2 times we've been told that Samuel's too old, but he's lingering.
He is hanging on.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, God bless him. So
One more thing.
One more time.
And one more thing.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you this. So he's told Saul to go ahead and go out against the Amalekites, and Saul is supposed to kill all of them. But he did leave King Agag and then some cattle alive.
Okay.
This is really it. If you thought that premature sacrifice was bad, like, Saul's done. So God is like, I regret that I made Saul king.
This is not. No, can I do a take back?
Yeah.
I can't. Well, I'll fix this.
Yeah, exactly. And so Samuel's really mad because he's like, really? God,
Right.
I have been through so much with these people and with this king, and now you're just going to take this all back? He's like, look, he's not that bad. And then Samuel goes out and he finds out that Saul has actually made a monument in his own honor.
Oh, wow.
And Samuel's like, okay, yeah, it's not great.
It's not so good.
I get it. I get it. So Samuel's like, let me tell you something, Saul. You are done. You didn't obey, and now you're done. And now God is mad at you, and God is mad at me, and now I'm mad. And so, and he says this line that it'll come back later on in the Old Testament scriptures several times. But Samuel says, Saul's like, I don't get it. I just offered a sacrifice. Like, what is so bad about that? And then Samuel's like, does the Lord delight in sacrifice as much as obedience?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the point is, like, God doesn't care as much about the letter of the law as the spirit of the law. Like, if God says wait, we got to wait.
Yeah.
Even if what we think we want to do is a right and a good thing.
Yeah.
So Saul asks forgiveness. He begs for forgiveness, actually, but it's too late.
Yeah.
So Samuel begins to mourn Saul. This is interesting. Samuel's going to die first, but
Yeah.
he is mourning Saul.
Yeah.
He's mourning the loss of that.
that faith connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it did make me wonder. This was kind of I thought this was a kindness, because I always think like Saul bad, David good. Now we know from stories about David that David was not purely good.
Right.
So now maybe I personally can take a step back and think Saul maybe wasn't all bad. He just made bad decisions.
Right.
And maybe he just wasn't fit to be king.
Yeah.
So chapter 16, God says to Samuel, how long are you going to grieve over Saul? Like, we have got to move on.
It was just like turn of the page. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm
long enough.
done. Yeah.
Here we go.
Let's give a moment of silence for Saul. Okay.
And done.
So God's like, go out and fill your horn with oil, and you're going to head on out to meet Jesse the Bethlehemite.
Yeah.
And you're going to go incognito. You're going to go, like, don't tell him why you're there.
Yeah, because Saul would have killed him.
Yeah,
He,
exactly.
Like, so Samuel's already afraid of Saul. And so he's like, well, we're going to go with the heifer. So when we show up, we're just like, can't you see we're here to do sacrifice?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just innocent sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he gets out to Jesse's house, and Jesse has a lot of sons.
Yeah. And none were in it. So Jesse has a lot of sons, and so Jesse knows that there's going to be Samuel knows that there's going to be a king that comes from Jesse's household, and so here comes the parade of kids. Jonathan, Bartholomew. I don't know the name. Bob. They just come out and
Braden.
and then like Samuel's there's like not it, and just going down the line. It's kind of like one of those cars where you see like the kids lined up and they're getting shorter and shorter, and just like they're going down the line, and then that's it. And then Samuel's like, you got anybody else? And then Jesse's like, well, yeah, the youngest one's kind of out in the field right now tending to the sheep, and it was David.
Yeah.
And he summoned David, and he said David had beautiful eyes
Ooh.
and was handsome.
Yeah.
And Ruddy.
Ruddy.
Okay.
Well, ruddy sometimes means like red-faced, red-cheeked.
Okay.
But I read something that said this could just mean like youthful, young. He's
Okay,
very young.
so-
like inexperienced, if you will.
And then also became anointed. It's like, here it is. This is the one.
But if it was Rudy, it would also apply because like Rudy, the underdog, right?
Like for games.
War games.
Like for war games. Okay, yeah.
Coach, give my spot to Rudy. I hope somebody else enjoys this as much as me. Okay.
It's fine.
All right, it's fine.
If you like it, I love it. That's what we're here for it. So
Okay. All right.
well, the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul
Oh, that's too bad.
after the anointing.
Yeah.
And then an evil spirit from the Lord tormented Saul. Now, this is kind of just, again, biblical writing. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
does God send evil spirits? No, but maybe.
So same thing I was reading earlier. It said that this is not an evil spirit in the way that we conceive of like
Right.
demons. This just means like Saul, like he just wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
And in fact, the way it comes and goes, it could be even an example of early mental illness.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see that.
Yeah, those mood swings.
Mood
Yeah.
swings for sure. It's like, bro, I've got some stuff. So and you didn't have that back then. So anyway.
Yeah.
So Saul's in not so good place. He's like, I need something like some ambient music or something like that. Light some candles, some incense, humidifier,
Yeah.
and there somebody's like, you know what? We got a friend, son of Jesse,
Yeah.
whose name's David,
Name's David.
and he plays the guitar.
Yeah, and he's got beautiful eyes.
Yep. and so they did. So David come up and started ding 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 ding, and
Oh my gosh. And that just soothed
yeah,
him, huh?
it just suited him. And then ding 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 ding. And David sung to him like down in the holler. I don't know what
Yeah,
they would do.
anyway,
Anyway. And so Saul, and this is
Hallelujah.
okay.
Anyway,
There's
sorry.
a backstory there.
Yeah, another time.
Where was I at?
Well,
Saul
David-
loved him greatly.
Yeah.
And actually David became an armor bearer.
That's right.
And this is their introduction to one another,
That's
Saul
right.
and David, right?
Yes.
Maybe.
Or
Maybe.
is it?
Is it?
But the point of this story is that we know that David is like he's a kind of a relaxing presence, like a calming presence.
Yeah. Just melt into the
He can get people
Rudy face. I don't know.
What?
Didn't he? Little cherubim. That's,
Yes,
that's
they're
like
like,
the little.
let's pinch his cheeks.
Yeah.
No, Saul really likes him, and he really appreciates like his presence there. He calls for him often, and then he becomes his caddy on the golf course.
Yeah. Okay. So
Golf course of war,
I wonder in the games.
the war games.
I wonder if the calmness is not from his talent of voice or heart, but I wonder since the Spirit of God has left Saul and has been placed upon David, that Saul's finding something he's missing
Oh, that's good.
when they're together. I'm just like,
Ooh, that's good.
okay, oh,
So
and
then,
that's kind of it.
and
for
that's
this
how they
one.
meet. Except for then there's chapter 17.
Then there's another meeting.
Yeah, and this is David and Goliath, and you all know this story. Oh, is that Goliath? Oh,
No, I just love this story.
It's great.
Did anybody else practice a slingshot in their backyard after they heard this at VBS? I don't know.
I was really more concerned about how David could lift up a sword, a really heavy sword, for the size of a giant, high enough to cut off his head.
Well, see, we didn't hear that in Bible school.
Well, they were pretty like they didn't hide as much from us in my VBS experiences as I probably
We just heard he
would
got
have
knocked
preferred.
out. Just
Yeah. He's asleep for a while.
asleep for a while.
So David goes to visit his brothers.
Yeah.
They're fighting. They're on the battlefield with Saul and the army.
And the Philistines are
They're
like
on the
one mountain.
they're on the field, if you will.
Yeah, they're literally good. Like, well,
Yeah.
the field has, there's
Two
like
sides.
two sides, and one mountain on this side, a mountain on this
And,
side.
and nobody like Goliath, and then he would come up to the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "Hey-o."
What's up? And Goliath was tall.
He was
He
tall.
was 6 cubits tall.
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
know.
at least.
I was sitting at home and going 1, 2, 3.
If you're listening, we're just again holding up our elbows and arms awkwardly.
A cubic is from the elbow to the fingertip.
Yeah.
And so 6 of those.
Roughly maybe 8-9 feet.
And then it said he was a span. First of all, as a person of
span?
a span, is he was 6 cubits tall and a span wide. As a person who is a span, I really want to know what that size
Yeah.
is. Is that like? Is there like?
I think it just means he shops at the big and tall store.
Okay, fair. Okay.
Like he has to get his helmets special ordered online. You know what I'm saying?
And Goliath, so Goliath's sitting there, span and all, and at the 50-yard line, and says, "I've got a deal for everybody. Tell you what, let's not all fight. You're the best person against me. If you win, we'll be your servants. If I win, you're our servants." Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And David's,
And then he taunts them and calls them dogs. Just savage. Yeah.
and
And David's like, "You gonna let him talk to y'all this way?"
yeah, and
He's coming just delivering some bread.
yeah, he's like his brother's DoorDash,
Yeah.
ancient DoorDash.
He's
back
like,
then.
You gonna let this guy talk to y'all this way?
They're like,
We actually, in
Be
fact,
quiet.
are. Do you see how span he is?
and it's not the first time. Like they see how span he is. And this is not the first time that he says this. He actually goes back and forth a couple times.
Yeah.
And then finally, his older brother's like, "All right, who did you leave the sheep with? Because you've got a job to do.
You've been
We've
gone a
got a
while."
job to do. Although you're not doing your job,
Yeah.
But AKA, stay in your lane, little Dave." And David's like, "No, I got somebody watching the sheep. It's fine."
Yeah, and he's also like, "I'm going to take care of this. Like, I don't think we need to be afraid because God is on our side, and we think God is at least 2 spans."
That's right. That's right. And David has interesting questions. He asks first, what's in it for the person who wins?
Yeah.
And the second part is, oh, by the way, we have God on our side. So the question is, what shall be done for the men who kill this Philistine and take away the reproach from Israel? Second, for who is this Philistine that should defy the armies of the living God? And he repeats this question over and over and over, not just with his brothers, but other people. And words get back to Saul. And so Saul's like, bring this young buck here. And David goes up to Saul and is like, I'll kill him. And Saul's like, bro, no, you're just a kid. And David's like, look, I got this. I throw down with lions and bears. We got this. So I was like, okay, here's some of my drip. Go out to war. Here's a helmet. Here's a sword. Here's all this. And David's like, this is weighing me down. This is too much, fam. And so David takes it all off and just walks out there with what he has, with what he knows, And then there's like this standoff. We all know the story. David and Goliath, there's a standoff. David slings a rock.
Yep.
And
Nails
then
it.
nails him. Goliath goes to sleep.
Thump.
and then decapitation, and then done.
Done.
And then Saul's like, bring him back. And then Saul asked this, who is your kin? Who are you?
Yeah.
And who's your people?
Yeah, he's like, what's your father's name? I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And David's like, well, I am the son of your servant Jesse,
Yeah.
who is from Bethlehem.
Yeah. So is this a second introduction?
So what's happening here is so interesting. This is another example of how these stories were passed down from generation to generation, but then they were compiled and edited probably sometime around the exile. And so it's like earlier when we had the temple in an era where the temple hadn't been built yet. Like there's some editing that puts things together that then are a little clunky.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that the editors don't try to like make this more seamless.
Right.
Because they're like, but we have two origin stories of David and we don't know which one is which. So maybe we'll keep them both.
It's okay.
Because, like I said, the other one says David is a calming presence. He is willing to go and help people in times of crisis. But this one says David is also perhaps overly brave as a young person, and he is confident in God's ability to sustain Israel as a nation.
Yeah.
And he becomes kind of a voice in the middle of people who are all scared. And so both of those stories are really compelling. And we see maybe the spirit of both of those lived out in David's reign off and on.
Yeah.
But then we also see David being a little bit crafty here,
Yeah.
a little bit self-serving.
Yeah.
And that also comes into play later.
Yeah.
But I love this story. I love that David is not confident in his own ability, but just like, this is a no-brainer because God's on our side.
Yeah.
So,
And then we launch into like this, the rest of the chapters through this week is kind of one continuous story. And we see elements of Saul going back and forth, being in that good headspace, bad headspace. We see David in all the different aspects of his talents, gifts, and graces, and trust, and also wisdom and bravery, but also knows when to hide. And then we have also this brand new deep relationship between Jonathan and David. Jonathan, who is Saul's son. And so it starts right off as like once David finished speaking to Saul, the son of Jonathan was bound to the soul of David. And Jonathan loved him as his own soul, which is a beautiful phrase. And then there's this covenant that they make with each other. Basically, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. And this is going to...
Very Ruth and Naomi.
Yeah, this is going to be us for life. It's for life, yo. And all is fine and dandy until somebody writes a song.
Oh, dadgummit. It's always a song.
It's a song. It's a song that and it's funny because it's a really good song. It's like Saul.
Is this like the earliest like musical beef situation happening?
I imagine like Robin Hood with that little the cartoon with the rooster, Robin Hood and Little John running through the like narrating the you know what I'm talking about, like narrating the story. And this one is just Saul's killed 1,000, but David's killed 10,000.
Yeah.
And Saul hears this and becomes jealous.
These are people singing in the streets. They
Yeah.
come back from a battle.
Yeah.
And they're like, and Saul, which there's a couple problems here. Saul is supposed to be, as king, the one leading Israel into battle.
Yes.
But Saul has abdicated his responsibilities because he doesn't want to die.
Right.
Or maybe he's tired. I don't know. His back hurts. So he's letting David do this because David's done the whole Goliath thing.
Yeah.
So when they come back celebrating their victory, they're giving Saul some credit.
Yeah.
But they are definitely elevating David.
And then Saul gets this jealousy bug and it's like, you know what? That's fine.
Sure.
I'm going to get him.
Sure,
I'm
I'll
going to
kill
kill him. And we're going to be done with it.
Yeah.
So David's minding his business, playing his little guitar. And then all of a sudden Saul's like, here's a spear. Let me throw it and pin David to the wall.
Yeah.
Whoosh.
Yeah.
Well, David dodges, Saul hits the wall, misses David. And then
Saul's out of practice. He hadn't been warming up before the games like he used to.
That's right. You got to target practice and do stretches and all that.
Yeah.
And Saul was scared of David. He knew that God was with him. And so Saul's like, you know what? I'm just going to send you away. You're going to be my commander of 10,000. And you're going to go on the front line. Yeah. This is familiar,
That's
right?
a euphemism. You're going to be killed.
Yeah, that's right. Let the Philistines take care of you. So
because remember, David sends Uriah onto the front line. We'll get to there in next book.
You learn from the best, I guess,
I
or
guess
the
so.
worst,
Yeah,
one of the two.
both.
And then so that doesn't work. Well, Saul has another carrot for David, if you will. Go back into the battlefield, and maybe you'll be killed this time. And this time, the carrot is his daughter. He's like, you can marry my daughter, but when you get back, well, he's successful and comes back, and then Saul marries his daughter off to somebody else.
Yep.
Well, then Saul's other daughter, this time, Michal, or how do you do
Well, Michael is how we always said it growing up, but I think it is Michal.
Michal loved David. So here's another scheme for David to do, or for Saul to kill David. And Saul's like, you know what, David, tell you what, go kill 1,000 Philistines and bring their foreskins to me, and then you can be my son-in-law. But they don't have this conversation directly. Saul's sending messengers to David to tell him about this. David is successful, and this time Saul's like,
do you think David was like, did he say foreskins or forearms?
Right. Yeah, one of the two. There's a difference.
There is a difference.
But he was successful.
Yeah.
And Saul's like, okay, you know what? Now we're enemies.
So did he get to marry Michal?
He did.
Okay.
I think. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. And then we get this like
David marries
the
Michal.
reprise of
here's my eldest daughter. Here you go.
We get the reprise of David and Jonathan's friendship again, their relationship.
Yeah, so we get down to like now we're in chapter 19, and so there's this, Saul's like, we're enemies, I'm gonna kill you. So David's soulmate Jonathan comes in to save the day, and he's like, listen, Dad's trying to kill you. So this is just a conversation that you have, right?
Yeah.
So Dad's trying to kill you, so hide. I'm gonna go talk to Dad and see how this goes. And so he goes and talks to Dad. Saul's like, listen, I promise.
He's like, no,
I'm not
gonna kill David.
kill.
David?
I'm
Wait,
not.
David?
Yeah.
Who's David?
Like,
oh, that guy? No,
yeah.
I'm not gonna kill him.
Well, I'm not gonna kill him.
Oh, wink.
Wink, wink.
Okay, got it.
Did you say David or David? I don't know. One of the two. So,
Viva la David.
so here's another plan, and David goes out and was successful, and then. You know what? Saul's just the worst father-in-law.
He was really bad. He keeps trying to spear him to death.
Yeah. He's like, we're back here. Missed again.
Yeah.
So David flees again.
He's always chasing him,
And this time, here's where Saul's daughter that David is married to comes into play. And I did not know this, but evidently like the pillows under the cover as a decoy
Oh, yeah.
is an ancient thing.
Whoa.
Because she put what did she put? She
An
put
idol or
like
something?
idols, so an object, and then like some donkey hair or something.
Nice.
Like here's
Classic
a little
David hairdo. Got it.
here's a decoy, and so people come and they're like, "Hey, where's David?" Or here he is. So then Saul comes and it's not him. He's like, "Why'd you lie to me?"
And then David goes and finds Samuel, who is still alive.
Yes.
We have been promised death multiple times. It's fine.
It's fine.
I mean, look, Samuel's like, I did remember one more thing I wanted to say.
And so, David runs off to wherever Samuel is, and so Saul knows that he's gone. Saul sends messengers to find where they're at, and as they get near and they come upon Samuel, all the messengers go into this prophetic frenzy. We don't hear what happens, but evidently it's so big that what's his name?
Jonathan?
No,
David?
no,
Samuel?
no. Saul sends another set of messengers, and the same thing happens to them. And then Saul sends a third time set of messengers. And as soon as they get to Samuel, they fall into a forensic whatever. And then finally, Saul's like, I'm going. And on the way, Saul starts getting to this prophetic frenzy himself. And when he finds where Samuel is, he actually ends up stripping his clothes.
Oh my.
And the clowns. So stripping his clothes and lays naked one day and one night before Samuel. And everybody else is like, is Paul prophetic too? Is Saul prophetic too? Which is interesting because he had the characteristics of a king and a prophet and a judge. So when you said that, I'm like, ooh, I wonder. And so as they're all friends spazzing out, David flees.
Okay. Well, that's a good decoy for sure.
And where does he run?
To Jonathan.
Runs to Jonathan. He's like, Jonathan, what have I done?
Yeah.
And Jonathan's like, nothing. You're not going to die. Listen, Dad tells me everything.
Sure.
So you're okay, Dad. Dad didn't tell me that he's going to kill you. And then David's like, bro,
Yeah.
your dad knows you like me.
Yeah.
And he will keep things from you. Because right now, and this is the great phrase, there is but a step between me and death.
Ooh, that's good.
I mean,
Yeah.
David's terrified. He's
Yeah.
like, I know
He's
that I could die today.
The end is near. The end is nigh. Yeah.
And then Jonathan responds, and we're in chapter 20 now. Jonathan responds, whatever you say, I will do for you. And so David says, let's do a test. And I don't know if this
I
is
love this test.
like a prophetic test or something.
I don't know.
And
Is it wool? Is it blankets? Is it anyway? No. I love the tests in the Bible. Go on.
It's like so he's like, I'm gonna hide during the feast of the moon, whatever that is. Evidently, this is a feast that went on for a couple of days. And if your dad by the third day ask for me and be like, where's David? Because evidently he's supposed to be at the household, and David should be there with Saul, even though he's throwing spears at him.
Right.
If I get there, or if your dad asks where I'm at, and you say, listen, David went home to do a sacrifice for his family. And if Saul says, good, then David said, all is well.
Okay.
But he said, if Saul's angry, you know that your dad's not in a good headspace for me.
Yeah.
And then he says this. So David's like, I know I'm about to die. Just find this out. And listen, if you, Jonathan, will deal kindly with me in our sacred covenant. So if I'm guilty, dispatch me yourself. If I'm not, help me.
Right.
Aw.
I know.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't
He's
want to
like,
die
"You're-"
by anybody else's hands but yours.
Right. Right.
Jeez. Okay. Jonathan's like, listen, I'm going to talk to Dad. And if I survive this, because evidently Jonathan's a little scared too.
Sure.
He says to David, show me faithful love. But if I die, don't cut off your love from my household. So if my dad kills me, still love my household. This doesn't break our covenant with one another in our households.
Interesting. Was that Jonathan's way of also taking care of his sister, David's wife?
I think so. Yeah. And just, yeah.
And so they keep swearing oaths to one another.
Oaths of love for one another. And it says that Jonathan loved David as his own life. So here at this point, John says, I'm going to go talk to Dad, and you're going to hide here. And when I come back, here's going to be the sign of what the outcome is. So here's your sign.
Yeah.
John says, I'm going to shoot 3 arrows. First of all, have you ever shot a bow and arrow?
Yes.
Camp
Dry Gulch.
I mean-
1993.
Did you do good?
No, I doubt it. I don't remember.
Well, it's not that easy.
No, it's not easy at all.
I mean, and here he's shooting 3. So anyway, kudos to Jonathan. I wonder what that pull weight was on. It had to be more than 40 pounds. Shoot 3 arrows. So he's pulling like
3 at one time. Is that what you're saying?
120 pounds. He's locking in 120. Boy, that'll bust a buck. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, heavens. Good Lord.
Okay, so Jonathan, I digress. Jonathan says, listen, here's going to be your sign. Here's your sign. I'm going to shoot 3 arrows. There's going to be a servant person with me. When I shoot the 3 arrows, I'm going to say, all right, go gather the arrows. And when that servant person gathers the arrows, that means that you can gather yourself to me. It's okay. Its coast is clear. But if I shoot the arrows and I say, oh, the arrows are too far gone for you to retrieve, that means you need to be too far gone for us to retrieve. You need to run.
That
How
feels like
clever
there
is
could have
this?
been I mean, this feels like a lot. Like he could have just said, too far gone is the code word. No, we've got to have arrows involved.
3 arrows.
Oh,
One for the
Lordy.
Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
That's
Amen.
right. Very, very Trinitarian in this particular
It's
passage.
like, what is going on? You could just went like, caw, caw.
So the good news is that the arrows were fine and they received David into the household. No, that's not
No,
right.
that's not what happened.
No.
So Jonathan confronts his dad. So Jonathan's back at La Casa and confronts his dad. And of course, Saul does not.
No, he tries to kill Jonathan.
With what?
A spear.
What? So he throws a spear at Jonathan. Guess what?
He misses.
This is why he only killed 1,000 and not 10,000.
Isn't that the
Because he
truth?
needs to practice his spear throwing.
Yeah, his arm's
But
old.
here's the funny part: is like they're just sitting at the kitchen table, and they're like, here goes the spear. Like, here, throw the spear at me. Go for it. Go.
Oh, me?
Dang it, Dad! I'm so mad.
Oh, yeah. God, Dad, you're trying to ruin my life.
I can't believe you threw another spear at
Dad,
me.
I said no more spears, Dad.
So Jonathan gets mad, gets up from the table, and doesn't eat one day because
No,
he's so bad.
I'm not going to eat any of this food that you've have for
That's
me.
right.
Dad.
Forget this. But no, he actually wasn't eating because he was grieving for David. He knew that there this is going to be a sad part between friends, and so.
So he goes back and he tells David and he says, go in peace.
Yeah. So go in peace, since both of us made promises that we are together in the Lord, and so shall our descendants be forever. But this is a sad ending, but it's a better ending than Romeo and Juliet for sure.
Yeah, at least they didn't kill each other. And themselves.
Spoiler alert, they'll see each other again.
Oh, come on. The Bible's so dramatic. They're like, farewell.
I'm about to die.
Uh-huh.
7 chapters later, wow, there's still some more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So dramatic.
I'll never see you again. A few chapters later,
They're like, hey, what's up? How's it been? Did you get that job promotion you were looking for? Anyway,
right.
I think what I love the most about David and Jonathan's relationship is that they should be sworn enemies. Saul is the king, which de facto should make Jonathan the next king.
Yeah.
But he loves David and he values him as a person, and he knows that David is anointed king.
Yeah.
So instead of them warring, they are
BFF.
bosom buddies. Yeah.
Soulmates.
I think it's pretty cool.
Which is interesting because you had a total different scenario in Moses and growing up in the Pharaoh's household. Grew up in the Pharaoh's household, knew the upcoming Pharaoh as a stepbrother-ish. And then they just kind of wore it off.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce this next name.
Ahimelech.
Ahimelech. Oh, that's good. So Ahimelech is a prophet. So we still have prophets around.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're in sections, but David will venture off to different areas and meet prophets and kings and whatnot.
I bet there
leaders.
are prophets kind of appointed in each different area.
And Ahimelech is one of them. And so he runs. David's in his first kind of away game.
Yes, he's traveling.
He's traveling right now in the games of war. And then he goes to Ahimelech and he's like, David, why are you here? Ahimelech to David, why are you here alone with nobody else? Because David had a posse that always went with him. He led groups. And so David's like,
I'm on a secret mission.
Yeah, the king charged me with the matter, but I cannot tell anyone about it. So give me some bread.
Yeah, he's hungry because he's been traveling.
And Ahimelech says he only had holy bread.
Yeah, which you can't have.
Well, you can have it, but only if you have been kept from women.
Oh, so David has not been kept from women.
Well, he said he was during war. So
okay.
there hasn't been mention of any wrongdoing. Well, I don't know. I guess infidelity wasn't a thing back then because they had
he
multiple
wasn't married,
wives.
and I don't know that.
Well, he was married to the king's daughter.
You're right. Okay, you're
but
right.
outside of that, it doesn't say that he was
No, but I think
active.
it means even if he had been with his wife during war or something, that still would count.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. Well, he's like, I'm okay, and so he ate some bread.
Okay.
I don't know what that word is.
Doeg?
Doeg?
Is it
Does the Ammonite?
I think it's a name.
No, that is the name.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, whatever that name is.
Doug. We're gonna call him Doug.
He the chief
Doug,
the
the
chief
Edomite.
of Saul's shepherds
Okay.
happened to be there.
Yeah.
And so David noticed it, and so David's like, I got to go.
Yeah, it's time.
And so David asked Amalek, do you have any weapons? I ran out. Literally, he ran out because he ran away. You get it? Okay. And the only sword that they have is Goliath's sword that David chopped off his head
That'll
with.
do. Donkey.
And so he's like, I got it. Let me take that. So David then runs to the land of King
Achish.
Achish of Gareth or Garth.
Garth, like the Brooks.
Garth, like the Brooks.
And he feared the king.
Yeah.
And because he thought he was in enemy territory.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
David's been leading battles all over the place,
Yeah.
and Achish does not like him.
No.
So this was a news story to me.
Yes.
And apparently, in order to get away from this king,
Yeah.
he just plays crazy.
Yeah, so the king's servants find David, and they're like, "We know who you are, and we're going to take
it's
you
not
to
gonna be good for you."
the king." And so on the way, David's like, let me do something just out of mind, out of sight, whatever. And so he starts to act like he's mad, and he starts to drool on his beard and starts, this is David, the boy who threw the rock. You know, this is David. Jonathan's soulmate, this is David, the future king, starts scratching on the doors, going, "Oh no, roar," or whatever, and drooling, and then
It works.
the king is like, "I don't know who this
Get
is.
this dude out of
Get
here.
him out of here."
Yeah.
And so then David goes to the cave of Abdullah.
Abdullah.
And then David's family comes there because everybody's kind of in distress right now. You know,
Yeah.
they're out of food, they're out of money, but not just his family. Around 400 people come and they meet David, and David becomes a captain just out of his nature and blessing, becomes a captain over them.
And yeah.
And then we're settled there for a little bit, and then he travels to Moab and asks the king to allow his parents to stay with them at Moab for a time. And then there's another prophet.
Which interesting, David, his great grandmother, Ruth, was a Moabite.
That's right.
So this is, their family. I wonder if that's why he felt safe going there.
I love that. It's like, here, we're fam, take care of my folks for a little bit.
We're kin.
And so then there was another prophet that told David then to go to Judah.
Okay.
And so Saul is on the tail. Like, he's following David around, and Saul ends up slaughtering the priest at Nob. But this is where Ahimelech, I can't say the name.
Ahimelech.
Yeah, that's where he was. And so they have this big conversation. But
I don't know what the Ahem stands for, but Melech just means king, I think.
Ahimelech.
Ahimelech.
And then one of his sons escapes and fled and told David. So all this is going on. We're in chapter 23 now. All this is going on. David's fleeing, hiding his family, moving again. Other people are being destroyed by Saul. And just so happens that the Philistines are fighting against Keilah. And so David goes and is like, God, do I need to go take care of that?
Again.
And God's like, yep. And so he goes, takes care of that. And then here's where Jonathan comes back on the scene. So David has just finished another war while running from Saul and hiding his family. Oh my gosh, here comes Jonathan and came to David. And the word says it strengthens David's hand and warned him about his dad.
Yeah.
And so at this point, David finally just goes into the wilderness of Zips when he discovers Saul was after him still. And this is where we kind of come to an end of the journeys of Saul going after David. Finally, Saul's rolling out. David, remember, has about 400 people with him. Saul's rolling out with 3,000 men to look for David. And Saul's like, we've been on this journey long enough. I need a pit stop. I got to go take care of some business. You know,
I've got to go on my morning constitutional.
Got to go on my morning constitution. I had those 3 burritos back at, the last gas station.
Yeah.
It's time. And so he didn't just pull off to the side like you do. And when we were in the Israel, people just pulled over and just
there you go.
Just relieve themselves, but he was like, I've got to do a little bit more.
Sure. I'm going to go a little deeper into
the
trees.
cave.
Yeah. Oh, the cave.
So he actually goes into a cave to handle his business.
Well, okay.
And in that cave, in the back side of the cave,
Yeah.
David and his people are chilling.
Yes.
And they're like, do
you smell that?
What's that? What is going on? Somebody take that outside.
Seriously. I told y'all we don't fart in the cave.
Did somebody eat one of those burritos I told them not to get?
Yeah.
Y'all.
This is amazing.
We were trying to hide, and y'all are just giving away our place.
So much drama happens while people are on the pot, is all I'm saying.
And so David goes to figure out what's going on and sees Saul there handling his business. And he's like, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
Pulls out the knife.
Yeah.
Goes up behind him. Cut, and then something happens. He's like, I can't kill him. I don't know why, but I can't kill him. Maybe it's the Lord.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the smell. I don't know.
Right. I peeled the paint off the cave.
He's about to die anyway from the smell. So he ends up just cutting off a piece of his cloak.
Yeah.
Still Saul doesn't know. And David goes back to his peeps and was like, hey, we can't kill him. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
And Saul, finishes up and then heads back out, and then David leaves because his heart was strangely warmed, and he was like, "Can't kill him, so I'm gonna go tell him what I did."
Yeah.
So he's like, "Hey, Saul," and Saul's like, "What?" He's like, "I could have killed you. See this piece of cloth right here?
Yeah.
Check out your shirt." And he's like, "Oh snap! You could have killed me." And then Saul's like, "You are a greater person than I'll ever be, and you will be king one day." And Saul's like, "Please forgive me." And then Saul goes home, and then David goes back to the stronghold. And that's where we're left.
So I know we'll get to this later when Saul actually does meet his end. But David, I think this warming of the heart is God reminding David that Saul was his anointed.
Yeah.
And that there's something really... I mean, I guess Saul's a person, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that God values even when he makes mistakes. So he's like, he doesn't deserve to die just because you're the one going to take over. Or maybe I wonder, if he thought it would compromise his relationship with Jonathan. Because Jonathan does say, "Please remember my household and love it." And I'm wondering if he was also...
He could be in that moment.
Yeah.
It's like, I made that promise.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this has been fun.
This has been fun.
It's a little bit of a roller coaster. And we've got Samuel's life story and David, his origin stories, plural. And now we're about to step into the season of Israel's history where David becomes king.
Yeah.
And I think for me, reading these stories over again reminds me like, David's a pretty complex character.
Yeah.
And frankly, so is Saul.
Yeah.
And so is Samuel.
Yeah.
And so we start seeing these stories, and maybe we have all along, but we really start seeing the major characters in Scripture presented as complex people, not just like black and white or like good and bad.
Yeah.
Like they all are people with lots of different histories and perspectives. So I'm enjoying this.
This has been great.
Yeah. And what was your favorite part?
There's too many. I don't know. I'm going to have to digest this still.
I think it was good also to see that David had somebody in his life, in Jonathan, that he trusted no matter what.
Yeah.
And how valuable that is.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, this has been good. We are going to, man, it's been a few weeks since we've been like, this is good.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're like, okay.
I think the end of last week I was like, well, my stomach hurts.
Right.
And it's not because I need to go in the cave, if you know what I mean. I apologize for making that joke. But on that note, just remember, like with all of our sacred scriptures and these stories that seem so odd sometimes, but then really meaningful other times, and a little bit of both, many, many times, reading the Bible can be complicated, but there's one thing that is not complicated. What is it, Chase?
Jesus loves you.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.